everyone, welcome back to Steph's Garage Jewelry. So we are going to be working on our Francesca series, and in the Francesca series we are going to be using a bezel Rivoli, Swarovski's SS39, and the SS39 is just slightly larger than 8 millimeters. And in these projects we are going to be using one of 4 bezels, and it's up to you which bezel you want to use for the project. They're interchangeable. I'm going to show you first how to do each of the bezels, and then you can choose for the project which bezel SS39 you want to use. And so let's just talk about that. So when we look at this, we have our basic bezel. Now this one I added just the ear wire and then a earring finding. Actually all the ones I'm going to show you today I had added an ear wire and then ear finding. So this is just a basic peyote bezel. Okay, then on here, this one we're calling the sun. On this one we take it a step further by adding a stitch in the ditch. Okay, and when I placed my ear wire for this sun one, I thought for visually it does look better if it's behind one of the stitches in the ditch. You don't have to, it's not the end of the world. I just find it more visually appealing, that's all. And then for the third one, this one we're calling Blossom, and the reason why that is that in between the stitch and the ditch we either added a Delica or crystal, and we rotated that. And when we did that, it brought in the embellishment around and pulled it in, so it was like a flower just beginning to open. And then the fourth one, this one I'm calling the star, and this one we added crystals all the way around the stitch in the ditch. Okay, and what that did is it just, you know, they all have their place and they are all lovely in themselves, and whatever one you choose to do with your projects, more the merrier. I think you can't go wrong with any of the 4, and I just thought it'd be nice to see all 4 of them individually. So today I am going to show you the basic for the SS39 peyote stitch. Okay, and what you're going to want to do is go ahead and you want to thread your needle with a wingspan of thread, and again that's from one tip of my arm to the next, and 1/3 of the way you want to put your stop bead. Then go ahead and grab 20 of your Delicas, 11/0 Delicas, and put it on your thread, the long part. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a circle, and we're just going to wrap our thread around and go through those first 3 Delicas that we put on initially. Alright, so let me just get a little closer for this. There we go. So we're going to just add our first 3 Delicas, okay? So go ahead, go through that, and then just slide that down close to your stop bead, okay? Now when I'm adding my beads, just a quick refresher, we've done quite a few bezels. It's gonna peyote bezels. It's gonna be the same thing. So we come out of one bead, we pick up a bead, skip the next bead, and go through the following bead. So the bead that we picked up always sits on top of the bead that we just skipped. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with that. So I'm coming out of here, I'm picking up a Delica, and then I am going through the next Delica. I'm just going to hold everything in place so my bead then goes to the correct spot. and I want to make sure that it's sitting side by side. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. Whoops, for the next one. Of course I would drop. So I'm coming out of here, skipping this one, but I'm picking up a bead that will sit right on top and going through the following. So let me just hold it in place. There we go. Whoops. So it looks like that. And then they just sit side by side. Let's do it one more time, and then I'll let you go to finish up. Alright, so I'm coming out of here. I'm skipping this one, but I'm picking up a bead to sit right next to it. And then I'm going to go through the following bead, like that. And I'm just holding everything in place so that way when it goes in place. And if it doesn't, not the end of the world, go ahead and adjust it and make sure that it is. And what I like to do with this particular project is I will, when I'm doing my first round, okay, I do keep it flat, okay, and then when we go to do our step up, that's when I shape it. So meet me back here. Okay, and what we'll do is we'll put on the last one together, the last one for this round, and then we'll do our step up together, okay? So meet me back here when you have the last one to put on, and we'll do the last bead and then the step up. Alright, so we just have one more to put on. So I am coming out of here, this bead here, skipping this bead, and putting on a bead to sit on top of that and going through here. And because I'm going to do a step up, I'm then going to go through that very first bead that we put on for this round. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that all at once, like this. And there we go. Now we need to shape this and then go ahead and put on our next round. So let's go ahead. I recommend grabbing like a big pen and then meeting me back here. Alright, so I have a pen here, just a basic pen. It's not a big pen, but it's a pen. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pick up my flat disc and I'm just going to gently put it onto my pen, the very tip. And I'm just going to use that to shape this into a round. There we go. There we go. Just to get started. And sometimes when you're working with a small bezel like this, it helps to keep this on the bezel while we start off our first round. It's not required, but it does help a little bit, just because it doesn't fit as well on my finger. For you, it might be different. Just feel how it feels for you. Okay, so if we look at this, our thread is coming out of here. Okay, and at this point, we are actually going to switch over to our 15s. Alright, so we are now switching over to our 15s, and I'm going to do something a little different, and I am going to use 15 Delicas for this next round. And then for the second round of 15s, I'm going to do 15 rounds. And here's what I recommend is that for this bezel, because it's so small, if you're using Delicas, use it for your first round and then the round 15-0s for the second. Otherwise, I recommend using for both rounds the round ones. There isn't as much space, and the Delicas are just slightly bigger than the 15 rounds. Okay, just a recommendation. Alright, so I'm coming out of here. So I'm coming out of here. Let me get a little closer. There. I'm coming out of here. I'm picking up a 15. It's going to sit in this notch, and then I'm going to go through here. There we go. My thread went underneath my pen. Whoops. There we go. Not the end of the world. Just annoying. Alright, so let's get back into camera frame. Do a nice gentle tug. And things will straighten out as we go along. Of course, it didn't help that I had to just, you know, pick it up and move things. Alright, so now I'm... Whoops. I can't hold things. It works better with a big pen for me. I don't know why. Probably just, you know, it's all in the head. Alright, so now I'm coming out of here. I'm going to pick up a 15. It's going to sit here, and I'm going to go through there. And I know things look a little wonky at the moment, and it's just because it's slipped on and off my pen. But as I'm doing this, it will strain out. There we go. Do a little tug. There we go. So things are sitting nicely. I'm actually just going to take this off because this pen isn't easy to hold on to. Alright, so now I'm coming out of here. And then I'm going to go through the next one. So, picking up a 15 to sit in the notch. Going into the next bead that's sticking out, holding the bead into place so it sits nicely. Do a gentle tug, and voila. So go ahead and finish up this round. Meet me back here. We'll put on the last bead together, and then we'll do our step up, okay? Alright, now we're ready to put on our last bead. So I'm coming out of here. I'm going to put on my 15-0, and it's going to sit in the notch. I'm going to go through the beads sticking out for the 11-0. And then for this step up, I'm just going to go through that first bead that I went through previously. So I'm going through here. Go. And I want to make sure for the step up I'm going through that bead that we just put on, and that will let us do the next round. Alright, so what I'm going to do, because I did the 15-0 Delicas, just so things sit a little nicer, I'm switching to the 15-0 rounds, okay? So meet me back here and we'll get started with the second round. Alright, just like we did before, I'm coming out of here. I'm going to pick up my 15-0 round, skip this bead and set it on top of that, and then go through the next bead. So let's go ahead and do that. There we go. And then we just want to make sure we position everything. Do a gentle tug, and then move on to the next. Coming out of here, picking up a 15-0, setting it on here, and then going through the sticking out. There we go. And let's just make sure the bead's sitting in the center. Do a little adjustment and do a little tug. And then you just keep going all the way around, and then when you're done, even though we're not going to be adding another row, go ahead and do a step up, and then meet me back here and we'll get started on the back, okay? Alright, so we are going to do the exact same thing. The only difference is we are going to be adding our stone in this process. So what I like to do with the smaller ones, and I do things a little differently depending on the size and so forth, but I like to get at least a few of the Delicas on, of the 15-0s on first before putting my stone in. So I maneuver myself to coming out to the one of the sticking outs. I'm going to skip this one and put a 15-0 to sit on top, and then go through this one, just like we did the front. I'm going to do like about 4 or 5, and then I'm gonna pop my stone in, hold it in place, and then go all the way around, okay? So let's go ahead and do that together. Do a little tug. And then I'm just gonna do the same thing for the next one. It's just like we did for the front. I'm just using the tail here for the back. So if we look at this, it's exactly the same thing. And I want to make sure I do a little tug so that way it tightens. Let's go ahead and do one more and then pop our stone in. How does that sound? There we go. So now I'm gonna bring my stone over. Just gonna let her sit there as gently as possible. And then I'll just hold her in place and position her as I do it. And when you're putting on the second round, it will sit, it'll just tighten before you finish the second round, so you don't have to hold on to it. There we go. And we're still doing the first round of 15 O's. There we go. We might as well go ahead and finish this because we're almost done. And we'll do the step up together and switch. There we go. So I'm coming through here. I'm gonna go, I picked up my 15-0 and I'm gonna go through that first 15-0 that I just added for the step up. Just like we did with the front. There we go. Now, because I did switch over to the rounds, I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. Alright, so I'm coming out of here. Whoops. Let's make sure I'm in the frame. So I'm coming out of here, picking up a 15-0 round, and going through the next 15-0 sticking out. There we go. So just like that. And it does kind of, you want to make sure it sits in there correctly. Sometimes if the string gets a little tied, I like to just pull it out just gently and then just reposition it and use your finger. Alright, so let's go ahead and do the next one. So just like that. Hold it in place. And then go ahead and finish up, and don't forget to do a step up. So go through this first one after you've gone all the way around, even though we're not going to be putting on a third row, okay? And then meet me back here. We'll do our reinforcement, okay? Alright, now for the reinforcement of the back here. And what we're going to do is, right now I am coming out of this one right here, and that was the first one I added. And I like to do this with one or two of the round 15-0s. Is I'll actually go coming out of here, I'll then go through the 11-0 that's sticking out, and then I'll go back through that same 15-0, There we go. And it just kind of anchors. And then for the remaining, and I'll just do that for like 1 or 2. I don't do too many, especially on these small ones. On the larger ones, I might do a couple of more, but on the small ones, just 1 or 2. And I'll go around just by holding it, reinforcing. Let me do that again. I think I went out of camera frame. So I'm coming out of the round 15-0. I'm going to go through the 15-0 Delica and the next 15-0 round. There we go. Just holding it like that. And I just do that all the way around. Okay? So do that for for both the back and the front. And then meet me back here. And what we'll do with both sides of our thread is we'll reinforce the very center, okay, weaving in and out. Okay, once you've reinforced the front and the back, what you want to do is come to the center here and weave your way around. And what I like to do with my center of my spine is I like to go through, and you want to do this with both your tail and your front end, because you need to do this several times and then you can end your thread. What I like to do is, you see the Delicas, the 11-0 Delicas that are side by side, and then you see the center, is what I like to do is I like to go through one of the 2 beads that are side by side, then go, so like for example, I'll go through here, pull forward my thread, then I like to come through the opposite side and then go back through the 2 beads side by side. And then for this very 11-0 Delica by itself in the center, I just go forward. And then I just repeat, so I got the 2 side by side, so I'm going to go through one side and then back through the other side. Make sure my thread doesn't get caught. And then back through that first side. And then in the very center, just go forward. And I'll do this halfway around with one thread, and then halfway around the other side with the other thread, and then you can go ahead and end it. Unless you're going to, like, for example, turn this into an earring by adding an ear wire, you know, so that's something to keep in mind. It's fairly simple, and we'll be using, you can either use this or any of the other bezels for our Francesca series. So I say go ahead and play around and see which one you like the best, and then decide. Now another option is, besides, so we have a few projects here, not all of them, but some of them will have 3. You can do a mixture of the 4, or you could do just the 1. It's up to you guys. But this is a fun, quick bezel to do, and it really brightens up your projects. Alright, I hope you enjoyed learning how to bezel at Swarovski's SS39, and I look forward to working with you guys on some other projects. Take care, everyone.